Hey, Joyful Journeyer. Anita Adams here, your host. Today, I want to share a personal story about an experience I had at a retreat I hosted, where we had the opportunity to engage with some rescue horses. Our equine facilitator led us to a small paddock that was home to 8 elders, including 2 minis. We were told the elders were separated from the main herd not only because they were older, but because they had had a challenging past. That wasn't explained any further, but in a strange way, it felt fitting. All of us on this retreat have lived full lives with our share of hard and painful experiences. And there is wisdom that is born from that. I can't speak for the other women, but for me, it felt, validating. I am an elder. I've come to see my own accumulation of life experiences as an asset and something to be valued. Visiting with the elders felt like a nod to the past and a recognition of that value. Soon after entering the field, Truman, the dominant male of the herd, sauntered over to us. And wow, could we feel his powerful, steadfast presence. He rubbed his head up against a few of the women, and he backed up and pressed his butt into a few others. Apparently, and contrary to what many of us have been told, a horse showing you his backside is a sign of trust. He's not setting you up to be kicked. Truman was happy to show us his backside, probably in part because he was looking for a good back scratch, and we were very happy to oblige. As we moved around the paddock, we were introduced to a few other horses, Truman always standing close by. Soon we were drawn to Aylin, a black Arabian beauty who stood poised at the entrance to an old barn. Aylin, we were told, was the dominant mare of the herd, and there was no doubt about it. She had a presence that matched Truman's, despite being smaller and more delicate. I would even describe her as dainty, yet regal. And she had these black, penetrating eyes that seemed to pierce your soul. When I stood in front of Aylin, our eyes locked, and tears pricked mine. I still don't know why, to be honest. Was I feeling sadness for the story I projected onto her about her life? We don't know what kind of life she lived before, but I couldn't help wondering about it. It was more than that, though. The way Aylin looked at me made me feel seen. Seen without judgment, without ego, without an agenda. There was something raw in that moment, and although it made me feel vulnerable, it also felt expansive, like my heart was going to burst out of my chest. Despite the sadness I was picking up from her, she also radiated a deep love that wasn't tied to any expectations. She didn't want or need anything from me, but I felt acknowledged and accepted. Others felt something similar. I could see it on their faces and in their sparkling eyes. A circle began to form with Aylin on one side and Truman directly opposite, the strong male facing the powerful female with the 2 minis, 2 dogs, and 6 women completing the circle. I didn't notice at first, but the circle kept getting smaller as we seemed to be pulled closer together. Something was drawing us in, animal and human alike. Then a hush fell upon us, and we stood in silence with each other. A few women had their eyes closed, some with their hands on either Truman, Aylin, or one of the minis. Even the more excitable dogs settled down and lay at our feet. A deep inner peace arose within, and I know from our conversations later that we all felt it. We also felt the grounding breaths of Aylin, slow, rhythmic, and steady. It was like she was reminding us to just breathe, and I could see and feel each of us in turn taking deeper, slower breaths. We also noticed Truman's softening in the circle. When he first approached us, there was a dominating power that cannot be missed. And as we stood in circle, that energy softened. Truman's presence was still powerful and unmistakable, but in Aylin's quieter presence, he just seemed softer, more at ease. What was interesting was neither horse tried to dominate the other. In fact, they seemed to complement one another. One did not dominate the other for their own strength to be felt. Instead, a quieter strength emerged that benefited the whole. This idea sat like an unfinished story for the rest of the retreat. There was something more to uncover from this experience, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. Then a few days later, I read an article I had written last year about Ubuntu, and it all fell into place. It was as though something I'd known before had come back around at exactly the right moment. Ubuntu is a Southern African philosophy often translated as I am because we are. It emphasizes the interconnectedness of people and the importance of community, compassion, and mutual support. And there it was, the language for what we experienced in that circle. I am because we are. I am stronger because we are. I am softer because we are. I am more resilient because we are. And our conversation later revealed that we all felt that. We all felt that collective strength and softening. One woman even recognized that's precisely how she wants to be in her male-dominated career, strong yet soft. She also recognized that her softness may be enabling the men in her organization to soften. And she realized that this softening is precisely what the organization needs. It was a powerful awareness for her. So much of my work through the Wisdom Way begins with looking inward to know ourselves. We discover our own strengths, our own nature, our own wisdom. What the horses showed me on this retreat is that when we know ourselves more deeply, we can bring that self more fully into relationship with others. We bring our experiences, our stories, our differences, all that we have lived into the circle. And in so doing, the circle is strengthened, as is each individual within it. I am because we are. This has left me reflecting on what I bring to the circle. There was a time I used to think to be a good leader, I had to be decisive, quick to make decisions, and to voice those decisions with conviction. That decisive leadership quality represents a certain kind of strength that I admire, but it's not how I lead. My strength and how I contribute to strengthening the circle is my ability to quietly listen, take in various perspectives, reflect on what is best for me and the community I serve, and then take action. What I used to perceive as a weakness in my leadership, I have come to view as one of my strengths, a strength that serves two of my core values, collaboration and connection. So, joyful journeyer, let me ask you this. What do you bring that strengthens your circle? If anything in today's episode resonates with you, I'd love to hear from you. My details are in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in today, Joyful Journeyer. We'll catch you next time. Bye for now.